Good morning all, it's Matt Buttery from PaperCut. Just wanted to welcome you to best practices of print management. We have on the slide that you'll see for schools, colleges and universities, but what we'll be showing today translates across multiple verticals, so not just education facilities. I think the last webinar we did, we had some council organisations that took advantage of the webinar and have provided some great feedback about how these policies and how these features work across their organisations as well. So we'll get started. Like I said, my name is Matt Buttery. I'm the Global Direct Manager for Direct Sales here at PaperCut, and in the room I have Damien White, who's Head of Application Engineering. I'll let Damien say hi.
I've gone with good morning, not hi.
Yeah, hi. And good afternoon for everyone as well. It's an early start for us down here in Melbourne, and we just want to thank everyone that jumped on the call. We know it's different time zones across the US and Canada, so yeah, we greatly appreciate your attendance. Just a little bit about me. 10 odd years in the printing game, and I've been with PaperCut around 4 years now. Come from the hardware manufacturing side, and I'll give Damien a little bit of a rap. Damien probably holds the mantle of the most PaperCut implementations of anyone in the organisation, probably bar our CEO.
I reckon I've still probably done more practical implementations than the CEO. We've got the second most in the room here with Mel as well. So we've got the big hitters, we'll call ourselves.
Yeah. So I also will say, Mel, you can say hi as well.
Hey everyone.
So Mel works in our support team, and we're actually very lucky to have both Mel and Damien on board, being that they come from our channel, I guess, originally, and really have seen PaperCut in application more than just about anybody that works here in the in HQ. So very, very lucky to have these guys on board. So next one. So the format for today is GoToMeeting. So you'll notice that everyone's muted. So it just makes it easier for us rather than having multiple channels of feedback. If you do, in fact, have a question, you can certainly put it in the chat console, and Mel will monitor the chat console today, and any questions, or if there's a question for some reason that we need to stop the presentation, we'll certainly do so, and we'll address that at the time. Also, you'll notice the PaperCut Twitter handle just down the bottom there at PaperCut Dev. So you can certainly ask questions during the presentation on PaperCut Dev if you like, or at PaperCut Dev. But moving forward, we monitor that regularly. So we normally turn those answers around. If you have any questions or comments, the marketing team are always looking at our Twitter feed, and we'd love to be able to respond and just have a general conversation with you across Twitter as well. So certainly remember that that's available available for you. Okay, so today's agenda will be pretty quick. So we'll be looking at print policies, specifically colour to grayscale, duplex to simplex, or double-sided to single-sided, large job routing, and even though we have got print archiving there as an agenda item, you will actually see print archiving in play throughout the presentation. It's the way that Damien will show the colour to grayscale changes when policies are in place. And I guess it's worth mentioning why we're doing this presentation. We have a lot of people that come up to us after shows and the like, and say that they do have PaperCut installed. So we have current customers and even potential customers that are in a trial. And with PaperCut, whether they've bought it directly from us or through our channel, and it's in a monitoring state. So it's installed, it's monitoring, they may even be reporting, but people are saying that they want to take PaperCut to the next level. They really want to start implementing changes to alter behaviour, whether they force that behaviour, through the policies that we'll show you, or whether we'll remind people of what policies are. So really, this is about taking PaperCut to the next level. Hence the best practices of print management, rather than just monitoring. Okay. So the first policy that we'll look at today will be discouraging colour printing, we've got written there, but it really is colour to grayscale. And why? Why would we do that? Well, it's a pretty obvious screen that you're seeing there. So colour pages cost 10 times, generally 10 times that of a monochrome or, like a black and white print. So the example that we've shown here is actually from our live demo, which you can use at papercut.com. There's a live demo that you can log into and view reports. So we'll just pause on that figure that you can see there, like 20,000 pages could actually cost you a couple of $1,000s. And that is not unusual for an education institution to be paying $2,000 a month for colour printing. So could you imagine what you could do with $2,000 a month? If you're dragging that back down to $200 with just a very, very simple policy, what you could do with those funds as opposed to, paying for toner. So Damien, I might hand over to you and we might go to the first demonstration of how a policy would work. Very, very simple stuff, and I'll let you explain from here.
Yeah, cool. So the first example that we've got is being able to show how we can take control of the colour printing problem for staff. So we're going to run through two scenarios in pretty quick succession. One will be dealing with staff within a school. The other will be dealing with students within the school. So we'll just drop back to the slide for a quick second. What we're really trying to do with the staff is take the option out of their hands. I guess when it comes to staff printing, there's only one person that's going to be paying for all staff print jobs, and that's the education institution itself. It's not that at the end of the month we go and tap the staff member on the shoulder and ask them for funds for all the printing that they've done throughout the course of the previous month. No, it's typically the business manager that's then got to go and settle those transactions up from within departments. The other option that we're going to have a look at as well is dealing with students within the same school as well. Students we tend to give a bit more flexibility to in the normal use case, because it is students that are paying for their own print jobs, and they're typically paying for these up front as well. So students will put $5 onto their printing account, and with the greatest amount of respect, how they choose to spend their $5 is entirely up to them. So they're probably, we're looking to use the same feature. We're still looking to use our ability to convert this job from colour to grayscale, but in one case we're just going to do it. In the case of the staff, in the case of the students, we're going to give them an option to do it.
So Damien, it's worth asking just quickly, in your experience, is it mostly that schools are charging the students, and where does that normally kick in? That's not normally an elementary school thing, it's more of a secondary school?
Yeah, so secondary and above is where we start seeing students needing to pay for their own prints. It's just a case that it starts becoming more and more part of their coursework. Yeah. They're starting to do assignments that need to be handed in on paper. So we tend to see the utilisation of these devices starts going up once you go from elementary school to secondary school. Elementary school, there's certainly good value of PaperCut in there, just to make sure that the teachers can be in control of the release of students' print jobs, but we start, typically money is being involved as soon as we start getting from the secondary schools and above.
Yeah, great.
So let's just jump straight into the demo here. So you see I've got my demo PDF open on the screen. So I'm just going to do the traditional Control P, and I'm going to choose my staff printer. So you'll see in the list of printers here, I've got a staff printer and I've got a student printer. Now this is actually just for demonstration purposes. The way that we would normally go about determining if you're a staff or a student within a school is probably by using Active Directory groups, but it's easier for me to demonstrate this today by setting up two queues than what it would be to log off and log back in with some different usernames. So I just wanted to cover that off there. Now I'm going to do the first 4 pages of this document, and you'll notice that I'm printing in colour, so I'm not ticking the printing grayscale option that's on the screen here, but I am going to print on both sides of the page. So as soon as I click print on this document, you'll notice I get a pop-up on my screen, and the pop-up on the screen is saying print policy alert. It's saying that we've detected colour in this job. It knows that I'm a staff member, so flat out, no questions asked, this job is being converted to grayscale. You see I only get a little OK box on the screen here. So I click OK. We can actually prove that that's happened by going into PaperCut, and this will be where we get our first glimpse at the print archive feature. So I duck across to my logs tab here, and you'll see that the document that's sitting at the top of the job log there is actually a grayscale document. So we have a look at the original, nice and coloury. duck across to here, you'll see that we've used the print archive feature to actually show how this document has gone through the PaperCut system, and we've converted that to grayscale.
Excellent.
Okay, so really, really easy problem to solve. That detect colour, know it's a staff member, convert it to grayscale, everyone's happy except for the staff member who probably wanted to print in colour. Repeat the same case, Control P, and I choose student printer, and I do my pages 1 to 4, and I'll explain why I'm doing only 4 pages a little later on. I click print. You can see that in this particular case I've got yes, no options down the bottom here. So because the students are paying for this print job, we're going to give them the option to adhere to school policy. They might also want the option to go with a lower cost job, but they also might just want to pay for the job in colour because that's what they wanted to do. They're the options that they chose. So I'm going to say, no, I don't want this to be converted to grayscale. We'll go back to our job log here. And you'll see that that job was sent through in colour. Okay, so the functionality and the infrastructure is there for us to be able to take these jobs from colour and convert them to grayscale. It's just a case of making a decision on when and if we want to do that. Staff, no questions asked. Students, give them an option.
So we mentioned earlier about some of the people that come up after shows and the questions that we get emailed into us about these types of policies. We had a great example last year where we had a director of technology at a school district, and talking about his pre-PaperCut and post-PaperCut implementation, and what they noticed was, or what they were absolutely blown away with, was the amount of printing that was done outside of school hours, and they actually found, between, I think the example was between 3 and 5 in the morning, like all of this colour printing was happening where people were probably coming in and, I don't know, printing newsletters and things that were...
Always wedding invitations. Always wedding invitations. I kid you not, the amount of times we've used PaperCut to solve the wedding invitation problem, it's been, would be well worth counting.
So it's not necessarily just the cost we're talking about, like those enormous savings that we saw earlier, but also about the policy of not wasting money on colour printing when it's certainly not needed. So we'll go to the second policy now, and we'll talk a little bit about duplex or simplex printing to duplex, or single-sided printing to double-sided. And again, it's going to be a very similar scenario that we've just seen. And obviously, the cost savings that we've got here are halving your paper costs almost immediately. It's not always going to be the case where you can, halve your paper costs. The example that we've got here is again from our live demo that you can see on papercut.com, but like $306 a month purely on paper. So not only have we got the savings from the toner from colour to monochrome, but also now halving your paper costs. So here's another, over a year, there's another $3,600 that you could be putting into your organisation that's not being spent on printing supplies. So we might jump in with a demo there, and then I think we'll even talk about combining the two policies together after you've shown this one, Damien.
Yeah, so similar scenario again. So we're going to run the student scenario and the staff scenario, and exactly the same set of theoretical rules. We're not going to give staff an option. We're just going to force their jobs to double-sided. Whereas we'll give the students an option is going to be the two cases that we run here. And then we'll go and look at the compound cases as well. So what if it's colour and duplex and a staff, and what if it's colour and duplex and a student? So we go back to our test document here. I do my traditional Control P, and I'm going to go and choose the staff queue. Yep. I'm going to print in grayscale, so I'm not going to break that rule again, but I'm not going to print on both sides of the paper. Okay, so this is a simplex grayscale job that we're sending through right now, and I'm going to do my pages 1 to 4. Cool. We send through the print job, and as you'd expect with the staff, just an OK box. There is no option here for staff to say, no, I really, really want to print this in simplex. We've set the school policy. We're applying it to staff. The only option they'll get here is the ability for us to print this document.
And it's worth mentioning, or asking, if, let's say, for instance, if this is a new policy that the school is bringing in, you don't necessarily have to be so harsh and just force them into these either policy, do you?
You don't have to be harsh. It is kind of fun, but you don't have to do it that way. No, so all we're really demonstrating here is that we have the ability to do this. How you then use those options within your environment are entirely up to you. Because, I mean, we're demonstrating here that we've got staff and students.
Yes.
Let's change this to a university. You're going to have staff, you're going to have students, you're going to have postgrads.
Yep.
You might have undergrads you want to deal with in a slightly different way as well. So that's part of the joys of being able to engage with customers when we're going through the pre-installation phase, is just understanding what the problem is that they're trying to solve, knowing full well that we've got the features to solve it, and it's just a case of being creative as to how we're going to implement those rules. So let's do the student example here. So pages 1 to 4, send through my print job, and you'll see that we get the same error coming up here, but we've got the yes/no options down the bottom. So in this particular case, I'm going to choose yes. I want my document to be converted to duplex. We'll duck across to the PaperCut web interface. You'll see that we've got 2 grayscale documents sitting at the top here. Now this is one that you can't demonstrate with print archiving, because you can't show double siding through imagery. However, you can see over on the attributes of the job here that this document was converted to duplex. Okay, so that's the right outcome. That's exactly what we were after. I'll now just quickly jump into one compound case where we're going to use the staff doing doing colour and simplex, and show that in that case we actually do both conversions on the one document. So I'm going to send a job through to my staff printer. I'm going to do it in colour, pages 1 to 4, and I'm not going to print on both sides. So this is simplex and this is colour. This is about as bad as it gets in terms of a costly job for a staff member. So I click on print.
So this is the staff one.
Yeah, okay. Yep. And you'll see that this job will be converted to grayscale and duplex. Okay, so the compound case is easily handled as well. We duck across to our PaperCut web interface. We look at print archiving, and it has done the conversion to grayscale, as we can see in the image there. And we've also converted this job to duplex as well. So really easy case to solve.
Yes, and the same thing for a student. Start of term, they've got new funds, it's fresh and it's shiny, they've got lots of money to blow on printing, and they want to do everything simplex in colour.
Yeah, so they can knock themselves out. I mean, students will get the yes/no options. What they choose at that point is entirely up to them.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. So, and it's probably worth mentioning the features that we're showing today, these are all standard in PaperCut. So these aren't, there's not additional costs to use policies and archiving. And we'll go into the last policy as well around routing jobs to more effective, or routing jobs to different printers, whether they're more effective or not. I don't know, but that'll be up to your organisation. So let's take the example that we've got on screen here around a 200-page job, take 10 minutes to spool and could possibly jam up a device. So obviously within your organisation, you've got multiple machines at different costs. Some may be considered a convenience printer, and some also might be under a print management type scenario where you've got much different costs as well. So like a small inkjet, or even in some instances a small colour laser jet that's sitting at the end of a desk for an admin person or within a classroom, could still be quite expensive to print to. Like an inkjet, you can pay $1 a page for an inkjet. So really what this policy is going to be around is, okay, sending jobs at particular times through your organisation, and the policy is actually going to say in this instance, no, you can't print to this printer at this time. You need to print to either a dedicated high volume machine or a more effective, like cost-effective machine. So these high volume printers, not that we're here to talk about what hardware does, but generally, I guess, we see that they're under some type of print management plan, and they're a much cheaper device to use, and also they're probably serviced as well. So the policy here is about, okay, let's not print to the $1 a page inkjet, which might look beautiful for photos, but it's not very cost effective. Let's print to a more effective machine that's going to handle this type of job.
Yeah, some practical examples of that we've seen in the past is, especially with the low volume printers, people tend to have to go and supply their own toner for those. So even from a convenience factor, not having to go and continually buying and ordering your own toner for those devices. It's a time saver, not just a money saver as well. And with the fleets that are provided under contract, whether you put a little dot on the page or whether you print a whole entire black page, you get the same rate from the copy of vendor for those on a click rate. So you are better off herding as much printing onto the MFD fleet as possible to get the best rate as possible from there. So there's two ways that we can go about doing that with PaperCut, and I guess the rules that I've typically written for this in the past have been as simple as if you breach a high number of pages, we'll cancel that job from the convenience style printer and either automatically redirect it to an MFD or just ask the user to resubmit it, depending on whether it's a find me print scenario or not. The other metric that we use for this as well is multiple copies. Now, if you're using a convenience printer for 5 copies of the one page, that's not what a convenience printer is there for. No, print one page on it if you've got to, and then go and use the provided photocopiers to take the other 4 copies at a controlled rate. So we'll just jump straight into this example. This is a really easy one, and this is why I've been choosing 1 to 4 pages for my print jobs so far through this demo. So if I try and send a print job through to the staff printer that's 20 pages, it's going to break my high watermark in terms of the maximum number of pages that's allowed to go to that printer. So I've got a really low threshold for the staff printer set at 5 pages. So because I've now breached that 5 pages, I see you get a message on the screen here saying you sent a job of more than 5 pages, send this to the high volume printer. Okay. So we could have redirected that depending on where that printer is. If it was down in a copy centre, you might not want to redirect it if it's going to have the staff member have to hurriedly walk down there and go and get the job. But in this particular case, I cancelled it. But now if I send my same document through to my high volume printer at 20 pages, and let me go completely bananas, let me do 10 copies at 20 pages and fire that through to this high volume printer, I wouldn't expect to get any pop-ups or any errors on the screen. I've sent the right job to the right device. Same with students. I guess this is one of those things that even if the students are paying for these jobs themselves, let's try and cap the usage of the printers in the computer labs. Anything over 5 pages in this case still seems ridiculous. So whether you're staff or student, put that high watermark on these devices and encourage people to use the high volume devices to keep our schools' costs down.
Yeah. And again, this is really about your own organisation managing what your fleet looks like. You may have a 60, 70 or 100 odd page a minute machine. Obviously, you've bought those because they are the machines that do volume. So really, this is quite an easy policy to implement to make sure that these devices are being used effectively. And you can obviously change that depending on how people use that. So I think the last example really was, we're going to speak about print archiving, but really we have seen print archiving. It's probably worth asking, is that it's default off, Damien?
It is default off. It's very easy to undefault on. There's very little prerequisites in order for us to be able to get print archiving up and running, and we really would recommend it especially for schools. I'm sure we've all found ourselves in a situation in the past where you find something inappropriate sitting on the printer or in the waste paper bin, and you need to work back to who it was that actually printed it. We've got 2 features that would make that really easy to solve. One is watermarking, which we haven't shown here today, but we can actually brand the bottom of the page as to who submitted it, and then print archiving actually therefore keeps a copy of the document as well for you to bring the student to the IT administrator's office, point at the screen and say, look what you did.
Yes, so there is actually a news item going around in Australia at the moment. Let's not name names. No. I'm not going to name any names, but there is an organisation who has now captured a leaked document. Won't take you too much to Google that. That is actually a PaperCut customer, and they've actually traced that back now to the people that printed and leaked that document out. So, yeah, look, unfortunately, it's a terrible scenario, but a great outcome that they've been able to trace that document back to the user. Yeah.
The only considerations for print archiving for a sysadmin, and the reason why we don't have it on by default, is you do need to be aware as to the storage capacity of your server to keep these documents. But again, that's just a case for planning. Then tick the feature on with the installed prerequisite. There's no cost for it. Yeah. So for me, it's a case of just why wouldn't you? You can remove groups from it as well. So if you don't want the principal or the dean of the school's documents being saved, that's fine. You can opt people out of this, but by all rights, staff and students that are part of the general population, really cool feature.
So we've gone through the policies, we've shown the savings. Now we might just open up to the group. I know there's been some questions coming in. Mel's been feverishly answering those. That's good. So maybe we can unmute. Just give everyone the option to ask a question if you happen to have one. Again, we've gone through the three. We've shown the savings here. We've talked about print archiving. It's good to see if we've got any questions in the open forum. And if not,
everyone is now unmuted. Feel free to ask any questions.
All talk at once. No, I think we might be good.
Cool. All right. So we'll answer any questions via text, and we can make those answers available for everyone, either on Twitter or however we choose to do that.
And we'll send an email out to everyone with today's content. And you can contact us on the PaperCut Dev Twitter handle, support@papercut.com. Of course, Mel will be there waiting all day.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, sales@papercut.com if you have any questions or answers, or questions in regards to your trial. And other than that, we might bid everyone farewell and let you get back to your day. So thanks everyone from me.
And thank you.
All right, bye.